For almost 200 years, there was a book you were not allowed to read. Not because it was violent, not because it was immoral, but because it described the sky. How could a book about the stars become so dangerous that it was banned across Europe? What kind of ideas could threaten an entire religious authority? To understand that, we must travel back to the 17th century, to a time when looking through a simple telescope could change human history forever. Part 1. How it started. In 1632, an elderly scientist named Galileo Galilei published a book with a careful and almost polite title, Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems. At first glance, it did not look dangerous. It was written as a conversation between three intelligent men. They discussed two different models of the universe. One model was ancient and widely accepted. It said that Earth stood still at the center of everything. The sun, the moon, the planets, and the stars all moved around it. This idea had shaped European thought for centuries. It matched religious teachings. It supported a vision of a stable, orderly universe. The second model was different. It claimed that Earth was not the center. Instead, Earth moved around the sun. This idea had been proposed earlier by Nicholas Copernicus, but for many years it remained a quiet theory, discussed carefully among scholars. Galileo did something bold. Using his telescope, he had made new observations. He saw mountains and craters on the moon. He discovered 4 moons orbiting Jupiter. He observed the phases of Venus. These were small details, but together they formed a powerful message. Not everything revolved around Earth. The heavens were not perfect and unchanging. They were dynamic. In his book, Galileo did not directly attack the old system. He allowed his characters to debate calmly. But the argument in favor of a moving Earth was stronger, clearer, more convincing. And beneath the polite dialogue, one idea quietly rose above the rest. The Earth moves. At that time, this was more than science. The structure of the universe was connected to theology, philosophy, and political power. If Earth was not the center, what else might not be fixed? And soon, the authorities began to notice. Part 2. The Place Event. The book spread quickly across Italy. Readers were curious. Scholars discussed it. Some praised it. But leaders inside the Catholic Church were uneasy. Years earlier, Galileo had already received a warning. He was told not to teach that Earth moves as a physical fact. He could discuss it as mathematics, as a hypothesis, but not as reality. Now many believed he had crossed that line. In 1633, Galileo was ordered to travel to Rome. He was nearly 70 years old. His health was weak, but he obeyed. He appeared before the Roman Inquisition. The trial was not dramatic in the way we imagine today. There were no crowds shouting, no public speeches. Instead, there were quiet rooms, serious men, careful questions. They examined his book. They asked about his intentions. They compared his words to earlier instructions he had received. One detail disturbed them deeply. In the dialogue, the character defending the old Earth-centered model seemed less intelligent. At times, he appeared foolish. Some believed Galileo had mocked the traditional view, and perhaps even the Pope himself, who had supported elements of that view. This was no longer only about astronomy. It was about authority. If scholars could openly challenge the structure of the universe, they could challenge other structures as well. Under pressure, Galileo defended himself. He said he had only presented arguments on both sides. He insisted he did not claim Earth's motion as absolute truth. But the judges were not convinced. In June 1633, the verdict was delivered. Galileo was declared vehemently suspected of heresy. He was forced to publicly deny the idea that Earth moves. According to legend, after his forced confession, he whispered, "And yet it moves." We do not know if he truly said those words, but history remembers them, because even if he remained silent, the planets did not. Part 3. How it ended. Galileo was sentenced to house arrest for the rest of his life. He returned to his villa near Florence. There, he lived quietly, watched by the authorities. He continued to write and think, but his freedom was gone. His book was placed on the index of forbidden books. Catholics were forbidden to read or publish it. The ban would last nearly 200 years. For almost 2 centuries, the dialogue was treated as dangerous. Yet ideas are difficult to lock away. Outside the reach of the ban, scientists continued to study the skies. Observations improved. Mathematics became stronger. Later in the 17th century, Isaac Newton would describe the laws of motion and gravity. These laws supported the moving Earth model with powerful clarity. Gradually, the heliocentric system became widely accepted across Europe. The universe did not collapse. Society did not fall apart. Instead, human understanding expanded. In 1822, church authorities quietly allowed books that treated Earth's motion as fact. By 1835, Galileo's dialogue was officially removed from the index. The ban was over. Galileo himself did not live to see this moment. He died in 1642, still under house arrest. But over time, his reputation changed. He was no longer seen as a rebel. He was recognized as a pioneer of modern science. In 1992, more than 350 years after his trial, Pope John Paul II formally acknowledged the errors made in the case against Galileo. It was a late correction, but it showed that even powerful institutions can reflect and evolve. The book that once threatened authority had become a symbol of intellectual courage. Part 4. Meaning. Takeaway. This story is not only about astronomy, it is about fear and curiosity. When new knowledge challenges old beliefs, the reaction is rarely calm. Change can feel like danger. Questions can feel like rebellion. But history shows us something important. Truth does not disappear because it is banned. It waits. It grows quietly. The Earth continued to move, even when a scientist was forced to deny it. And today, the lesson remains clear. Progress begins with the courage to look through the telescope and the patience to defend what we see.